Hello there.
Hey, babe.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I am so happy to see your beautiful face.
Yeah.
What a lovely surprise.
Well, my silliness, I came on an hour ago and I was like, oh, I think she's still in her little her silent step portal thing. And then I looked at the time, I was like, oh my God. I was
Yeah, I
hopping on
just
an hour early.
awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. I have been my little retreat was cut short. I was able to get 24 hours of camping out and then it started downpouring and it has not stopped.
Wow.
Yep. So here we are. Here we are. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so excited you're here. So I'll give you the whole big spiel.
Love it. Do it.
So this is Gene Key Contemplations with the Sacred Wild. My name is Sheena. And so this week we're exploring Gene Key 43. And I'm super excited to have you on this call. So we have the opportunity to be very conversational with it and kind of see what pops off. What I was going to invite us into, and let me know how this feels for you, is about like a 10-minute meditation. This was inspired by Chani Nicholas. And just to sort of create that group soul, drop us into the moment and sort of connect with the astrology frequency. Because as we know, Gene Keys is all about the astrology of like really tuning into the energetics of what we're experiencing and feeling. So I am, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that this might really just drop us in. And
Yeah.
then what I'll do is I will drop, I'll invite you to drop in with any reflections on there. And then we can go into some contemplation on this gene key. So gene key 43 is the shadow of deafness, the gift of insight, and the city of Epiphany. So this is all about sudden breakthroughs. And so, yeah, so on that note, I'll invite us into a meditation. It's about 10 minutes. And then we'll pop off there and then maybe get into the wisdom story and some contemplation on how we're feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, awesome. So let me get my script up here. Okay. So hello and welcome. I invite you to get yourself into a comfortable position. This is a guided meditation on meaning and what meaning holds for you or what holds meaning for you. So when you're ready, just find yourself in a comfortable seat for your body, supporting yourself however you need today. And let yourself settle into the posture, feeling the bones stacked in such a way that you could sit here for a couple of moments and really just focus on your breath. So let yourself fidget until you find the right support, the right position, the right alignment for your body today. And next, I invite you to find your breath and just notice the breath at this moment, how shallow or deep it is. And 3 times, take a deeper breath than you are right now. Take a wide, full, deep breath times 3. And then feel your body. Just notice the temperature of the body today. Is it cranky? Is it energized? Is it sleepy? Just take note of how the body is doing today without judgment or fear that it should be anything else. In fact, tell your body that you pick up the message that it is sending out and that it is absolutely perfect and reasonable and understandable why you would be this way today. Simply say, I hear you. Maybe even repeat back to yourself the signal that you're getting from your body, kind of like a call and response. Notice what happens when you do that. Notice what happens when you stop ignoring the body and you just acknowledge how it's doing. I want you to use your imagination, your memory, and go back to the last thing that happened in your life that gave you a deep sense of satisfaction. Maybe even it felt heartwarming. Maybe it felt like a surge of calm, but excited energy. Maybe it felt even like an affirmation that you were on the right track. What was the last thing that happened in your life that made you feel like that? Then imagine that happening again, maybe in a different scenario or a different situation. But imagine that happening today or tomorrow and feel that feeling in the body. Notice the signals that your body sends you when it feels like you're doing something that's meaningful to you. And then imagine that it's happening right now. See yourself in that situation. Feel the feelings as if it was happening in this moment. Something that even kind of takes your breath away or makes you feel like, wow, it was all worth it. Who's with you? Where are you? What is the exchange? Then I want you to look back on your life and see if you can think of, or if any memories come to mind when other times in your life this was true, where you felt a light and alive and on purpose, calm, but also thrilled, relaxed, but really aware and excited and engaged. Who's there? What's the exchange? What is it that's happening? It's okay if you don't have any other memories, or it's okay if it's only one or two. Something might come to you also after the meditation. For now, just take a deep breath and allow that imagery to be released. Come back into this moment and feel the body now. See how it's feeling now. Feel the room that you're in. Notice any sounds around you. Give yourself some gratitude for taking a couple of moments for yourself, for meditating today. Whatever part of you got you here, definitely say thank you. And as you start to open your eyes and come out of this meditation, I encourage you to jot down any memories that you had of any of the visualizations that you had, or anything about this meditation that struck you in terms of what holds meaning for you and how it feels in your body when you're in that situation. And then see throughout the rest of your day and the week if you feel that way again, and when, and take note of the similarities, or take note of where it is you are and what it is you are doing. These are our insights, and these are what leads to our epiphanies. And on that note, I'm sending you a lot of love and inviting you back into this moment, into this gene key call with the sacred wild.
I'm muted. I went into that and I was like overwhelmed. I couldn't turn my brain off because it's the middle of a work day for me. And so I was thinking, oh, I have to get this job offer letter out, and I have to do this, and I have to get this programmed, and I have to get this community. And then like by the end of it, like, you know, and then I let go. And then at the end of it, I was still thinking about all the things, but instead of it being overwhelmed, it was like, oh, I get to, instead of I have to. And it like transitions throughout that meditation. That was perfect. This is like my middle of the week yumminess right here.
Oh, I love hearing that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So have you had a chance at all to listen to any of the contemplation from Richard Rudd this week on Gene Key 43?
No, I need you to tell me like what I haven't. You're my gene key person. Yours is where I listen to all about all the gene keys. Yeah.
So, you know, I just want to share this while we're recorded too, just for anybody that's listening later. So every 6 days, we are going through a gene key, and the gene keys has amazing free resources. And one of them is Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, gives a contemplation on each of them. So if you tried to purchase them, they're like $2. You could purchase them, you know, whatever. But for the 6 days they're in transit, there's a link that you can always listen to them for free. So it's
another on genekeys.com.
It's on genekeys.com, and it's got like free links right at the top. It's also on the app, or it's also on you can get there through the Triple Flame app, which is another amazing app. It's so profoundly simple, but when we're thinking about these epiphanies and these insights, they come through taking pauses, when we actually like carve out times for just contemplation and spaciousness, is when we have these breakthroughs. And so Richard Rudd created this app. It's called the Triple Flame. It's totally free, and all it is sacred pauses. And so you can just take on, like, every 3 hours, you can take a pause. You can choose to have a silent pause, where it'll just record the time for you so you know, or you can do a guided meditation. They also have deeper dives with journeys, can go an hour long into them. One of the fun features about it is it does invite in community, that you can also see how many people are pausing with you, which is kind of cool. But this is another great tool for just like carving out that spaciousness for insights and epiphanies. I
Yeah.
find this one like to be interesting because it always makes me think of Blue, where, you know, this is the story that she shares quite a bit on her journey, was her journey with actually having this gene in her hologenetic profile, which is the shadow of deafness. And our sister Blue from the Fluorescent Sisterhood, or from the Deja Blue podcast, is someone that has announced her struggle with her hearing, going to a place of losing her hearing and shifting her perspective and awareness through her study of the gene keys as well, to say, actually, when I look deep into gene key 43, it's not that I'm deaf, it's that I'm so surrounded by noise pollution that I'm really invited to tune out all of it and become so aware of like the somatic experience of listening to other people and engaging in conversation and being in the presence of others. It becomes such a deeper experience when it's a felt and embodied understanding, rather than just trying to intellectualize and hear somebody's words. And so this, the dilemma of this gene is actually the worry of the mind. And so it's interesting that through our spiritual journey we go from warriors to worriers, where as we have this greater spectrum of consciousness, we also remember our connection with all things, and we become more highly sensitized to them all. And so like the paradox is, through our awakening journey, we're actually even more into the human experience of suffering, because it's actually through the alchemical process of acknowledging the suffering that we can find our divine gifts that we're all here to share. These epiphanies, these insights will all lead to some creative spark, some evolution within us. And this one is no different. And so really this dilemma is asking us to break out of our monotony and break out of our routine. And, you know, if we've been so humdrum and going along this certain kind of way, there's a recognition that we have to come into, where we acknowledge that we've only just created the illusion of safety for us in all of these routines, in all of the monotony. And we become so like burnt out. We actually lose our primal chi energy because we're not doing the thing we're supposed to be doing. We're doing all the busyness of all the shit that we shouldn't be doing. And that's the shadow of deafness, is really just being constantly validated by the external stimulus of what you should be doing, or what people think that is, you know, the true essence of being human, and what it looks like to be successful, or what it looks like to be beautiful, or whatever comparative measure that humans have at these days. And this shift in our awareness gives us the opportunity to shift that lens and say, like, actually, what feels good from the inside? What energizes me? When I come away from that competition paradigm, and it's no longer about what are people going to think about my creative expression, how are people going to view me, that's we can actually start digging into the trueness of who we are. And the archetype of this gene is the creative rebel.
Yes.
So I just would love to give you an opportunity to share if there's anything that's coming up for you now as you relate to any of that, and then we can go into the archetype of the rebel.
Yeah, so I love the Sacred Rebel. I have the Sacred Rebel Oracle deck. That is one of the 3 decks that I use every Sunday before I log on to the Sacred Wild Sunday service. So I love that deck so much. But reeling it back, and really, like, I love how it's So I just did a post today about spaciousness
Mm.
and recognizing that I have created a life that is safe and free, and that's innate in all things and all people and all experiences, because that's like I've learned how to access that in me. And so now my practice is creating spaciousness and realizing I don't have to have this chokehold, right? This clinging, this stronghold on my rising and setting rituals. Like instead, let's allow spaciousness to sit in there and genuinely ask myself, remembering that my ritual is not the things that I do, but my ritual is asking myself, what do I need? And then
Mm.
giving that to myself.
Mm.
And so like really allowing for spaciousness there, and that looks different every day. Like some days it's just me laying in bed and listening to the Gene Keys contemplations, or listening to a YouTube meditation, or witnessing and and witnessing and celebrating oracles and orgasmic oracle mystery school, or any of the wild ones that are here in the sacred wild. And it's like I felt inside of me this, like, that inner child, like, I don't know, is it safe to let go of my safety blanket? Like, will I still be safe without my blankie? Right. And then recognizing that I have done the work, I have stayed consistent, I have been devoted to myself. And that is now like ingrained in this way of being. It's no longer a practice, it's who I be.
Mm.
And and so really creating the spaciousness in my boundaries, in my budget, which is boundaries for money, in my schedule, which is boundaries for time, in just everything, and realizing that now I get to create spaciousness. So it's not just this little thing that happens that throws me into an unsafe experience, but I have so much going on that a little thing is just going to be like a drop in the ocean, right? Like a little pebble in the ocean, because of the spaciousness I'm creating right now. So that just felt really good and validating, right? To just feel that, like, okay, I'm in harmony with the Gene Key universe here, right?
Yes. And then we
Um,
just had the new moon, you know? So
yeah,
this is so on target with, bringing it back into here we are, Scorpio season. It's going into the depths. And we
yeah.
have new moon on Monday, which is like
Hmm.
could be very secretive. Could be it's all about like planting the seed, creating
Yeah.
that spaciousness where it's like when you plant the seed, you don't just dig it right up. You actually have to give it the space and the time to grow. And so this week is truly all about like, what are you planting in the darkness that nobody sees? And are you giving yourself that safety and surrender to trust that it's going to bloom and that,
Yeah.
it's going to be what you manifested it to be. And, so we're in that like fertile, rich soil of, like you said, creating that spaciousness. And it's so beautiful. You're such a beautiful embodiment of someone that's like
Mm.
cultivated that practice, that ritual over time, and now gets to feel all the experience of how it moves you. It's being moved through life. That's what all
Right.
of the divine expression is. It's no longer what do I want? It's like this divine will moving through you because you're in such communion with the moment and not resisting the moment, changing what's in the moment. And that's
Mhm.
how we reclaim our power. And Scorpio season's all about reclaiming that power. And so I'm just going to read a little bit now from this is coming from Unlock Your Design. This is human design, and this is the archetype of the rebel. And this is I think this is a fun companion with the Gene Keys. We can all read the Gene Keys. We can all look into the contemplations, and there's a million resources that we can find. I think that tuning into this human design article for the archetype has been kind of fun to give it a little bit more of a playful spirit where Gene Keys can be a little bit more harder to digest sometimes.
Right.
And so this archetype is a creative rebel that can wear many different costumes. He may be a poet, a lover, a pirate, a mad scientist, or a revolutionary. There is something that only he can do, and that is his gift to the world. The rebel stays resolute to his own truth, and he takes the risk to shake up the system. Wherever he goes, the rebel dares to be unique and thereby ignites an individual revolution in others, inspiring them to take creative risks from their own genius. He shows that without the spontaneous, the unexpected, and the dangerous, we simply can't evolve. So this archetype constantly thinks outside the box and trusts his inner knowing no matter the consequences. The insights the rebel experiences move as a pulse from not knowing to knowing, but then I would also say back to not knowing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Any insight has to be allowed to happen in its own way and timing. And once it does happen, the rebel experiences greater inner liberation and a wider experience of awareness. His flashes of pure knowing are often a step ahead of what everyone else can perceive. It's as though the rebel's inner ear tunes into things that others cannot hear. The rebel has learned to wait for the penny to drop before he speaks. He makes space for the breakthroughs to happen. And when he does, he has a real gift for expressing his thoughts in a new and creative way. He transforms the rationalized truth of the inventor, Gene Key 24, into unique perspectives that are ready to be converted into spoken language by the translator, Gene Key 23. Together with the translator, the rebel can translate complex concepts into something simple enough for everyone to understand. Even though this archetype loves knowing, he is amazed by the unpredictability of life. In the tarot, this would be the card of the Fool. Ultimately, breakthrough demands an environment of mystery and not knowing. And the foundation of all breakthrough is uncertainty. Insight comes as a flash when it's least expected. So the role of the rebel is to bring consciousness into form, which is a process called involution. This process perfects and refines life on Earth, making it more efficient. True insight makes life simpler. The rebel's breakthrough begins at an individual level, gradually influencing and empowering those around them, and then eventually society as a whole. Together with the Black Panther, Gene Key 34, the rebel is a doorkeeper for the codon ring of destiny. Here we find the human urge to evolve and become more blended with the divine urge to descend into the world of form. This is all about planting our seeds. Destiny is governed by the combination of human strength and insight, which are the main qualities of these two archetypes. The rebel is a portal guardian of the fourth sacred seal of Epiphany. Epiphany heals the wound of rejection that keeps us from opening our hearts fully. As this seal is opened, many barriers between people, communities, and countries fall away. On an individual level, the fourth seal opens the potential to live a truly romantic life where the heart never closes. And this is the life of the rebel. Through the opening of the seal, the rebel inspires friendliness, openness, and honesty. This is not a path for the faint of heart.
No.
Oh, the rebel.
It I resonate so much with that. It's like like a telling of my journey, my story, and for the longest time I had titled my daily shares as the Fool's Journey. And because that it's true, like we I lived a life where I was gathering all the knowledge and all the wisdom and all the understanding, and I have all the words, and I have a knack for describing the indescribable or making complex situations, and bringing simplicity to them to where anybody can understand it. And throughout this journey, it was one of the most hilarious medicine journeys I had with psilocybin mushrooms, when it deteriorates the ego death of knowledge.
Mm.
and realizing that the more I learn, the less I know is accurate, and that I have learned all these things. I have gathered all this information to get to the space of recognizing and being aware of and embracing the fact that I don't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned enough to know that I know nothing. And it was, I was literally just laughing the whole time. I was like, none of it matters. Nothing matters. And of course, my partner at the time is having this big, where, opposing journey where everything matters, right? And at the end of it, he's just like worn down and beaten. And I'm like, oh my God, like literally nothing matters. It doesn't matter. And I'm just like laughing, and because it's the truth. Like I allowed, like going back to meaning, right? I put the meaning on my knowledge. I put the meaning on my wisdom. I put the meaning on everything, right? And if I walk out in this world not knowing, knowing nothing matters, and walk from that place, who would I be? How would I show up? And I think that's really the truest essence of the sacred wild. And to be an entrepreneur, holy shit, that is saying I am willing to look to the depths of my soul over and over and over and over again and confront my shadow and be faced with my darkness so I can alchemize that into who I'm meant to be in this space, right? At least that's how it's been for me in this journey, and really focusing on coming from a place of safety and freedom, right? That's why I have my full-time job, so I can financially come from a space of safety and freedom. I don't have to force, I don't have to, you know, pay my bills with the money from the sacred wilds, whether it's the community, the business, the clients, whatever. And allowing it to genuinely evolve and go through me. It is not my creation. It is simply what's come through me and chosen me as a vessel to do the things, to do its bidding.
I love that. I love that so much. And you really truly speak to the three flavors of all of these genes, but especially this one. And it's our shadow state is survival, our gift state is service, and our divine essence is surrender. And so, like, when we come out of survival, we're like, I want to show everybody how I did and I want to proclaim it from the rooftops, and I want to learn from every guru, and I want to share it, and I want to all the things, and you're a fool and you just want to wake up the whole world, and then at some point in the awakening journey, it's like, I don't give a fuck. I am just here minding my own business. If y'all want to wake up, come and join me. If you don't, I don't give a shit, whatever. Like, we're all in our own time and our own journey. It is what it is, and so that surrender is the essential point for the Siddhic state to come in, because it's when it's finally saying, I don't need to change anything about me. I literally accept all that I am. And in that epiphany, when your body resonates with the truth of you embodying that frequency, is I'm done. I am both God and no thing. I stop looking for anything outside of myself. I stop even getting off of the hero's journey. There is like almost like just a radical honesty within the gene keys, where it is like, this could all be bullshit. This could all be nothing. And I just made all of this up. You know what I mean? And like, that's the paradox that we really do have to buy into. Is this predictive programming? Are enough of us going to read this as we create this? Or could that be such a thing? Did people pass this down? Is it total rubbish just to get us to express a higher essence of love so that we can like, move in a certain direction through
Yep.
space and we're just being used in this simulation. It's like,
Yep.
yes, both, and no,
Mhm.
and yes, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking knows.
Nope. Nothing matters and it all fucking matters. It is all made up. Every
Yeah.
single thing is made up. Every single thing like this desk was a figment of imagination until somebody decided to put the elements together to make it real and defy everybody else's thoughts because it never existed before until it did.
Yeah.
With flight, same thing. Like every story we have is literal bullshit, meaningless.
And
And
like
so,
you said, it's only when you put your truth into it, you embody that this is my story. I'm
mhm,
going to embody this truth of how I experienced this situation because nothing else matters
yeah,
except for the resonance of truth in your own little solar system here, in your
yeah,
own universe, in your own Merkaba spaceship, in your own essence.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I say, like, so it's all bullshit. None of it's real. So I'm going to pick what feels good.
Exactly. So I'm just going to do what feels good.
Yeah.
And so, because it's all bullshit, I'm going to read us a wisdom story and just allow us to tap into the unity of our bullshit.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
reason that we share all of these stories is so that, yeah, we can have love and compassion for how all of us are navigating this crazy roller coaster because we all decided to show up at this
Yeah.
time in all of our radiance and all of our glow and all of our unique gifts, and yet we're all simultaneously celebrating the fact that maybe none of it even matters, but we're just going to show up here anyways. so and
We're
so
just going
this
to do it.
we're just going to do it. We're just going to do it because it
Yeah.
feels good. It feels better to give a fuck than it feels than apathy. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
truth. It feels
Mhm.
better to give a shit than not.
Preach. It feels better to feel than to experience numbness. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
where was it that I heard this? I mean, because you probably heard it too, but that numbness is an actual feeling.
Mm-hmm. That's
I don't
right
know if
from
that
the
was
movies.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That
Numbness
was
is the
like,
feeling. It's the
whoa.
rich, fertile soil. When we can accept the numbness, that there's a charge in us that's anxious and wants to do something, wants to be created, wants to be used. And yeah, so many of us are like, oh, numb that out, drink that out, sex that out, gamble that out, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
When you're still feeling like we're just labeling it again, it's just everything has its own meaning to us. But yeah, like to be able to feel is my permission slip to experience this life. And that's what life is for. It's the only purpose of life is to experience it.
Yeah, and
Right?
not in survival mode,
Yes.
in the gift of our service mode. Like,
Yeah.
how did we survive whatever the fuck we had to survive? And how did we live to talk about it? That's literally the only reason that we're here. We're on a flying thing, hurling through space. And it's like, live to tell about it. Because that's
Yeah.
fucking wild.
Right?
And so here is the imagery, and this is from Dr. Rosie Aronson's Oracle deck, Wisdom Keepers, 64 Faces of Awakening. Anybody studying the Gene Keys, I highly recommend this as a companion. And yeah, just to listen to a storytelling way of sharing this passage. And so it starts with a Richard Rudd quote that says, every human being is born to be a rebel in the sense of filling a space in the world that cannot be duplicated by another. My wisdom story. I worried a lot as a kid. My mind spun with speculations about the bad things that could happen and how I could avoid them. My more sturdy brothers teased me for being such an emotional wimp. At school, I was often called the brain. I felt different and weird and wanted so badly to fit in, to feel secure, and to be successful. Ironically, my ability to anticipate problems made me a great programmer. No one could find and fix the bugs like I could. Suddenly, it was cool to be a nerd. As a young man, I had wealth and independence. Thrilled I could finally compete with my brothers, I dominated the conversations during family visits, talking endlessly about my successes at work. Deaf to their contributions, I showed off my latest gadgets, gave unasked for technological advice, and blurted out inappropriate comments about how big my abs were after hiring a personal trainer. I was too busy winning their approval to notice what a pain I was or how deeply I envied their relationships. Then I'd go home and pull out my feel good technology. I'd play video games, watch TV, and surf multiple dating sites at the same time. Obsessed with freeing up my space to be more productive, I learned to operate my stereo, TV, computer, car, solar panels, and sauna, all from my phone. But instead of freeing up my time, technology swallowed it whole. The harder I worked to streamline my life, the more complicated it became. I couldn't stop the noise. And that's when I had a breakthrough insight. Nothing I did, used, or accumulated would ever make me feel more comfortable in my own skin or like I truly belonged in this world. In one fell swoop, I canceled all my subscriptions and threw my TV and gadgets in the closet. And I got quiet, really quiet. All I did was listen. At first to the noise in my own head, and then to the sounds of my home, then to the birds in my background, in my backyard. Slowly, I brought back technology. First the music, then the podcasts, touching ones with stories about real people who suffered and prevailed. And that's when I received the insight that would change the course of my life. I would create a radio show in honor of people who felt like me. And I'd call it The Outcast. That was just the beginning. My gift to you. I am here to invite out the rebel in you. The poet, the lover, the mad scientist, the revolutionary. There is something that only you can do. Something your entire life has prepared you for. It is time to take a risk, to shake up a system. You may make waves. That's okay. Whatever you do, stop listening to the status quo. This is not about venting or blaming. This is about being creative and being open to love. You don't have to know where exactly you're headed or why in order to trust your inner voice. As you courageously forge a new pathway, don't be surprised if your timing gets better and breakthrough insights come your way. Dare to be who you are, and you will ignite the creative rebel in others wherever you go. Some questions for contemplation to think about this week would be, what are you worried about most days? Do you obsess over your worries or drown them out with busyness, outer noise, or your own talking? Do you ever feel misunderstood or like a misfit? How might your need to self-protect be deafening you to others? What might you do differently if you weren't afraid of being different? Have you ever had a deep insight or epiphany? What was it? And lastly, track your worry throughout the day and watch it shapeshift. So, on that note, that certainly brings up resonance for me for sure. And like we talked about earlier, is just that constant seek for information. You know, for me, I've always been a very philosophizing everything and just asking the bigger questions, even as a child. And, definitely was not celebrated in all of that question asking. I would say my dad had a really good tolerance for it. He was the only one. And more than anything, I was picked on. I was teased for asking such big questions and having such big feelings. Me, Leo rising, everything was like, it was just monumental to me. Like when things were happening as a highly sensitive person, I was noticing shifts and changes. And if people weren't saying, what they were, if they were not, feeling how they were,
Yeah.
it was deeply disturbing. And so there
Mm-hmm.
was that part of me that resonates with, I would detect patterns. I would really try to like get to gauge my level of safety by understanding the patterns of the people around me. Now here I am, an astrologer, a gene keys guide. Now I've made a life's work out of detecting patterns and rhythms, and all of this came from my trauma response of how can I create safety within me. Back to this place of spaciousness, was in that place of safety, it could eventually be transmuted into a place of service. That now that I've created enough safety here, I can share some of it. And I can also be still in the frequency of receiving every time that I give, because what we are all here doing, alchemizing our shadows into our gifts, it's through our vulnerability. It's through our connection. We can't do them all alone. We actually have to be witnessed. We have to be celebrated for our uniqueness, for our rebellion of whatever kind of epiphany that we decide to come out with. Maybe we have a sexual expression that we come out. Maybe we have a certain flavor of fashion. Maybe it's a certain way of, or just a perspective of our ideologies. But all of us are these unique essence to share how divinity moves through us, and like how special it all is for each of us when we can shift out of that safety. And yeah, I definitely can attest to, I thought that the enlightenment journey was going to be all rainbows and butterflies. And
Right?
I thought that if I alchemized all of my wounds into my superpowers, it would be like, okay, you're done.
Yeah, right. Like nobody fucking told us that this was gonna be it, and it's better than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
dark
Yeah.
nights of the soul, overwhelming, crippling grief and heartbreak, and like it was just the other day that I was driving on my way to work, and it's like I was feeling all of the I was feeling so much pain. Like I was tapping into feeling the pain and the fear that happens, that gets experienced by both the victim and the perpetrator. Like I was literally feeling into what it feels like to be somebody who's torturing people, like how disassociated from humanity do you like are you like, and it just felt like this cold hard metal, right? And like the pain and the hurt was vibrating so loudly that like there was nothing else that could be heard. And I was just like, I cried like the whole way to work. And that like that's who I am, and I would never want to feel any other way. I would never want to not be able to feel that
Yeah.
or feel into that.
Yeah.
And like as you were saying, you were talking about as a child, like I was thinking back about like what was I doing as a child, and for me my thing was like I would speak the emotions, those emotions that nobody was speaking. That's what I spoke, and it was awful. It was awful, such awful experiences, and now what do I mean, from my stepdad coming after me with the shotgun to my biological father leaving multiple times whenever I put words to those hard feelings,
Mm.
my mom's emotional abuse as an alcoholic, and like and now I've come into a spot where I've literally created this space for everybody to speak every feeling that they ever want to speak freely and safely. Like wow,
Wow.
like that shifting, right? Where you and I have really like stepped into that space, and we've alchemized the shame and the judgment and the blame that was put on us as a child when we were simply embodying the truth of who we are.
Mm.
And we've gotten to this other side to where now like, you know, I was listening, I was trying to feel into the question, do I feel like an outcast or a rebel or whatever? And I was like, not anymore, because we've cultivated this community and this family of nothing but rebels. And so when everybody is a rebel, right? When everybody's an outcast, when everybody's the psychedelic sheep of the family, like, is we're just comfortable being our crazy, weird selves. Like, that's the beauty.
100. And this is what a divine gift to come to that place where you accept yourself so radically that you no longer need to change. And if you decide that every day you are going to commit some kind of change, that's great, because you've already accepted that you're great as you are. And if something else happens within that, or if you're moved in a certain way to be inspired to do some righteous action, then so be it. But through that sacred commitment to radically accept yourself, everyone feels that around you. These are the people giving out big fat permission slips all the time, because they embody that artistic expression of surrender, of I don't give a fuck. I'm not here to amuse you. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to be validated by you, or however it looks. And like that radical permission slip is like, I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to make you feel true, you know? And claiming that I'm going to live in my truth. And despite how it may be perceived by others, I accept it. I accept the divine birthright of claiming, especially in this lifetime. And I love that this conversation has come up with us multiple times, of claiming privilege. What does privilege look like? What does it look like to be a high priestess as a modern medicine woman? What does it look like to be, a sacred rebel? What does it look like to be a witch, celebrating her witchcraft and communing with nature? What does it look like to be an oracle? What does it look like to be someone that can be sovereign and just accept the power that's been bestowed upon us, where most people are handing our power away left and right? These people that are invoking this within them are just changing our humanity. They're changing our world. And this gene key 43, as it talked a little bit about in the archetype, this is part of the sacred seals of the passage of grace. This is part of the initiation of what it is to walk in Christ consciousness, which is to say, to embody grace. And this is the forgiveness piece. This is, I reclaim what was exiled before, and I forgive, like you said, and I forgive everyone that victimized me, just like I forgive all of my lifetimes where I was the victimizer, where I victimized others. And in this actual sacred initiation, I know that I've definitely felt the alchemical experience of these initiations this past week in a deep and very profound way, which is the 8th and 9th initiations of grace, which is I am the embodiment of grace. I am the embodiment of forgiveness. I am the embodiment of reclaiming privilege and honoring my sacred holy vessel as the most holy temple on my planet. And I celebrate every choice that I make from that place of reclamation. And this gene key of Epiphany invites all of us to come into that sacred union of why the fuck are you here? What is your power and how are you going to share it? And deep in this scorpionic vibe, especially for women, this is our portals. These are our sacred pussy portals of reclaiming the power of what we get to do in creating life through us. And what a divine blessing is that we get to choose how we use our womb. We get to choose how our body will be used in this lifetime. In the Epiphany is that there is no judgment day at the end of all this where someone says that you made the wrong decision, because guess what? There's no such thing as the wrong fucking decision. And every single thing that you do is righteous and holy and pure and sovereign for your specific blueprint.
Yes. Yes. Preach. I had said something along those lines the other day in a post, and I wrote, every choice you make is for your healing. It started out with, once you begin to choose for your healing, you are healed, and every choice you make is for your healing. And then it reeled me in. Like I that's actually what kickstarted the delving into the victimizer, feeling the victimizer, because that was my question after that was, how can choosing to murder a child be for your healing? How can choosing to abuse a woman be for your healing? How can choosing to abuse anyone it be for your healing? And then that's what guided me into stepping into like the inner workings of that, right? Like, and I'm brought back to my first medicine ceremony where, like, after I let go of the, had ego death upon ego death upon ego death, I went and I was literally floating over watching my first rape and had so much love in my heart for the me and the him that was there, knowing that it was divine perfection in that moment happening, that had to happen in that moment exactly as it did, or else I would not be where I am right now. And then, like, to be able to experience that level of gratitude, like, thank you for listening to your divine instinct and intuition and being willing to embody such a deep, like, expression of a perpetrator so I could be of my highest evolution on my path. Like, what a willing, like, to be willing to step into that role, what a gift from that human, right? Because that's not an easy role to hold. And just being able to shift that perspective was just beyond beautiful. And so, like, yes, everything you do is righteous and holy, everything. And if you can't see it, then it's not that it's not, it's that your awareness has not expanded to include the holiness that it is.
What a beautiful way of articulating that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the discernment piece that's so important for all of us, because there is a very sacred part to our own personal journeys too. There's a sacred timing to when we share. There's a sacred part in our silence. There is just such a sacred honoring of the pieces that we're moving through as we're experiencing them, where, truly, our most service oriented acts are coming from that vulnerable sweet spot of, I've actually been sitting with this and processing this, and I'm not just outsourcing this to get your opinion and your ideas of, am I good, am I bad, what is it? It's like, when you're no longer needing to outsource is when you can actually tap into those insights and remember, holy shit, like you said, I've been so divinely guided through every single one of these experiences. I love to give like sacred place suggestions and, ways that I know that for me, I've worked with the tools of the gene keys in somatic ways. And for me, I'm a rememberer. I will say I remember my past lives, but I work to remember them too. And so I have been going to past life regression sessions. I've had life between life sessions. I've been with really incredible guides, and a book series that I really love is by Dr. Michael Newton. He writes Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, and some others, where they are case studies of hypnotists putting people into deepened state of meditation for them to access and remember their past lives and their life contracts. And that's been something that's been very profound for me in my awakening journey, is to go into these sessions where, just like you said, Jen, like I can actually remember when I signed the contract, like with my abuser, and I can go back and lovingly witness that Akashic record where we made the sacred vow that we were going to teach each other how to awaken, or we're going to teach each other how to have boundaries. We were going to show each other how to have compassion and forgiveness and to embody unconditional universal love. And I've had the unbelievable experience of being able to go back into those places where, when I've had to make difficult choices, even then I can come back into the sacred place of remembering. And all, like, these time and space are all constructs anyway. So even the last year of my life feels like it went backwards in so much, because
Yeah.
this past life work that I'm like, oh my gosh, the choices that I made a year ago, I'm actually experiencing the consequence of that choice now. But I can
Yeah.
say, in this reclamation and in these rememberings, is that I would do it all again. I signed up for this. I remember this now. And even
Yeah.
when this journey is excruciatingly hard, I remember that what I promised was that I wasn't going to toughen up and close down my heart. I
Yeah.
made a sacred vow that I would keep my heart open for everything that I experienced. And that gives me so much more compassion as I do go into a meditative space of remembering all those versions of myself, of revisiting that child that was abused, or that teenager, or whatever version of me. But there's such a beautiful place. And that's the gift of insight, is to be able to say time and space are an illusion. I get to go into a meditative state when I feel these big emotions bubbling up inside me. And I have to say, when was the first time that I experienced this? Or if it feels better, when was the last time? And work your way back. But if we can go, when was the first time I experienced this? Can I give myself so much compassion that I can enter back into that moment right now and bring this version of me that I am now? So I get to say, while that experience is happening, you're not alone and you're safe. And right now, in this moment, you get to experience every single feeling that maybe you weren't safe to experience that. And through that insightful experience, you can actually heal all those layers of you and break away all those karmic ties that are still performing under the conditions of something that hadn't been fully processed yet, where you were still navigating the wound, but you didn't even realize it because it was so comfortable there, because it was so safe there, because you've been doing it forever. These insights don't come through the monotony of the 9 to 5 and doing it all and numbing out and pretending that everything is just going to get better magically. I had a conversation this week about hope, and just like, gosh, hope is such a dangerous word. When we are a child, hope is what gives us that strength to make it through the day, because we need hope when we're powerless. When we don't have a way to control our environment, we need hope. But when we grow up, we get to have faith. We get to have trust. We don't need hope anymore. Hope is too blinding. We actually have to say, I know that there is a higher power that is orchestrating all of this. And even when I don't fully understand, I trust that this is going to happen for the greater good for all.
Yes. Yes. And so in turn, being hopeless is a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Because we have trust, we have experience. That's the difference. That's what comes through the experience of life, is that we have the trust. I've been here before. It may have looked different. It may have been wrapped in a different wrapper.
Yeah.
But I've been here before. I know this feeling.
Yeah.
I can name this feeling. I know the process and tool to get out of this feeling. So I can trust myself here, and I can stay here. I can sit here for a little bit because I trust. I don't hope that it ends.
Yeah.
I know it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Mm.
Epiphany it comes from the silence. It was a cosmic joke, as it usually is,
Yes.
that I got 24 hours of Vipassana. I was going to go for a week, but I had to
One day,
call
that's it.
in.
You're done.
Yeah, I was like, okay, great, awesome. So I have this is my first time coming on to technology, and I'm going to go back off the grid for the rest of the week and enjoy the silence and the deep listening that comes from the scorpionic realms that are
Yes.
just, deeply restorative, but, definitely humbled by the experience to say, oh, it is all that and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. You've inspired me. I need to schedule. I did it last year for 3 days where I went out into the middle of the woods. I did 3 back-to-back psilocybin mushroom ceremonies by myself out in the
Nice.
middle of nowhere. And it was so profound and so impactful. And, it was right around this time this year. It was about a year ago now. I'm feeling that itch to like, okay, come on, Jen. It's
Yeah.
time again to just, yeah. But the letting go of social media has been a beautiful, beautiful experience because I feel lighter, I feel freer, I feel so much just relief and release.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so special, like you said, like when we cultivate these communities and stuff like that. Like even sometimes I read my oracles and I'm like, well, that doesn't really apply to me now. It did like a year ago or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, even like, like oracle cards, they're so
Right.
sweet.
I know.
Yeah. But sometimes you're like, oh, I did that transition. Oh, I did make that
Yeah.
improvement. And sometimes those prayers or those affirmations are just like those acknowledgement of, wow, it feels so good to sit in this frequency now because of
Yes.
for how long I did not. It
Right.
feels so good to know, who's in my corner and who's not, and who can hold space for me and who can't, and to know that without any judgment.
Yeah.
Is just to say, I'm not going to put expectations on people that are outside of their capacity because that's not love.
Yes. Yes.
That's not the
Where
loving.
there's a separation between discernment and judgment. They
Yeah,
are
yeah,
not one and the same. Our
totally.
ability to discern has amplified and has been honed, right, into a place to where now we can discern without judgment. There was a time where the two couldn't be separated, and now there is.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's so
yeah.
good.
It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I'm so grateful you were able to come on this call.
Yeah, I should be good. This is gonna be us talking a pause, like, because before I had breakups during the week, I had my networking group on Wednesdays, which is why I couldn't make it, but my commitment with that is completed now. And so I'm like, well, I need something to break up my week. And so the gene keys is so perfect. It's gonna be like it's my lunch break, my week, my one lunch break during the week. So I'm like,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
this is my yumminess. This is my soul nourishment during the workday.
I love it. Are you still on the Fluorescent Sisterhood or no?
No, I got off. It just wasn't very active.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm in this space where I'm being extremely mindful and aware of where I'm expressing my time, energy, and money.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one of the members has just started a dream arc
I
call. So I haven't joined it yet, but I'm hoping to join that soon. Just as another way to engage in the Gene Keys community and
yeah.
sisterhood. But I really can't say, as simple as it is, I can't say enough good things about the Triple Flame app as just ways to take the sacred pauses. And also,
And so I did download it
yeah.
because Paul told me about it from you, and I was like, oh. And what's super neat is that because I have not, like, I've got it set up and everything, but I've not gotten to the part where I can actually take the pauses yet.
Mhm.
But it's fun because it gives you little, like, you can go back and read the little messages it gives you for each pause.
Oh, that's sweet. I didn't
So
even
like
realize
it's
that.
in your notifications. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's cool. So even if you're not in a space to be able to take the pauses, the little messages that they have for you is beautiful.
I love that. And you can do, I will just say this because I was doing that for a long time. I'm like, oh, this isn't the time. This isn't the time. But then I realized, with the silent pause, you turn that on while you're in the meeting, while you're at
Mm.
the supermarket, while you're doing the thing, and you're just present to the fact that you're simultaneously in two places at once.
Ooh, I
And
like
that
that
has
so
been,
much.
yeah, that has been a fun spaciousness place because I was doing the same thing. I'm like, oh, I don't have the time right now to pause. And it's like, this is all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. I can pause while I'm doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
This is the point of just
yeah,
noticing that things are happening. You're
yeah,
just turning the observer on. That's literally
yeah.
it.
Remembering you're the observer,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah,
literally
it's
just
the
being like,
reminder.
yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for speaking that. That's beautiful. Yes. Mm.
All right, my love. Well, happy 333.
Happy 133.
Sending you so much love and blessings and praying that you get a lot of insight and
Yeah.
magical sudden breakthroughs and epiphanies this week. And I will see you next week.
Beautiful. I love you.
I
Mwah.
love you. Mm.